here's how this all happened. Polygon wrote an article. The headline, I'm sorry I didn't write down the headline. The point of the article was to show that Microsoft needs more exclusives. They looked at those NPDs. It was 0 out of 10. Obviously, they need more exclusives because Nintendo has 9 out of 10. But actually, I want to start with the first paragraph because this is the funny part to me. Microsoft has given Xbox head Phil Spencer a vote of confidence, promoting him to Executive Vice President of Gaming. In return, Spencer will be expected to solve the company's immediate problem. The Xbox One doesn't have enough big name exclusives. That is not the Xbox's biggest problem. I'm already upset about this article from the beginning. It's a very well-written article, very well-researched. But the thesis is no, that's not their biggest problem. Clearly not. Anyway, what the paragraph that got picked up, spread around, re-headlined from other outlets is this one right here. Some of the names being thrown around as possible acquisitions by Microsoft are, frankly, astounding, even unthinkable. But the fact that they are doing the rounds is instructive. The most recent one we heard from a reliable source close to Microsoft was, in fact, Electronic Arts. We also heard a whisper about Valve and about Korean outfit PUBG Corp, which Microsoft last year signed to a timed exclusive for its hit survival shooter, PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. So that's the article. That's the paragraph in the article that got picked up and everything. And what's funny is the day after, Polygon's published another article where 4 analysts they talked to basically debunked that theory. They had 4 analysts come in and say no, they're not going to buy EA. Michael Pachter included. Pachter was in there. It's interesting to me the can of worms this opened, this article. Surely they did hear something. They heard somebody say Microsoft plans on buying EA or is thinking about it, as John said. But it's even if it's not likely, I think it's an interesting conversation to have. I'm deeply interested in this, but I don't have this area of expertise. I don't have these experiences to draw from. And the person we turn to in moments like this is a man named Rick Hoeg for a segment called Help Us Out, Hoeg. Now, let me do a little disclaimer before we begin Help Us Out, Hoeg. Rick Hoeg is simply incredibly knowledgeable in the areas of law and business, and fortunately likes to share his thoughts with us. This is Help Us Out, Hoeg is not news nor insider knowledge. It's just for fun, just for discussion.
Right.
Okay.
Share his thoughts is also just not even just scratches the surface of what I share my thoughts with you on how excited I am to play Builders on Switch again.
Right. It's I'm excited.
This
it's 2
is
words. Yeah.
A thesis.
Yeah, and the thing is, Jones, Hoeg sent us a lot of text here.
Yeah.
But I just think the possibilities of this, I like the facts of it. It was interesting. It was hard to edit it. I did take out chunks, and this is what is left over. Panel, if we're not riveted, we can move forward. But I really want to do some Help Us Out, Hoeg right now.
Are we ready?
Oh, we're ready.
Could Microsoft buy EA?
Oh, that was my question to him.
My initial thought is that anything's possible. In a year that has already seen Disney agree to purchase the majority of Fox, we really shouldn't be surprised at anything in the modern media entertainment environment. To give some context to that deal, though, Disney, the largest media company on the planet, has a market capitalization of only $168 billion. By comparison, Microsoft has a market capitalization of more than $700 billion. MS is not just or even primarily a game company after all, and it's important to remember that. Market capitalization is equal to share price multiplied by number of shares outstanding.
All right, so that right there, Jones, if you told me Microsoft is that much larger than Disney, I'd say get out of town. I'm sorry, what is it called? The marketplace?
Market capitalization.
Market capitalization. I'd say get out of town. And so I guess you wouldn't.
No, I mean, yeah, it makes sense to me.
It's huge. Microsoft is huge. It's just that helps me put that in perspective of how big Microsoft is. All right, sorry. You can make
My second thought is that anything's even more possible with Microsoft. Historically, Microsoft has always been a company to shore up any perceived weaknesses in its research and development or operations through the acquisition of, comparatively, smaller companies. On the day of this very podcast, they announced the acquisition of PlayFab, a cloud-based live multiplayer company, and in the past 18 months alone, they have purchased Beam, now Mixer, Simply Gone, AltSpace VR, and now PlayFab. And that's solely in the game or game-adjacent space. That's on top of their purchase of business social media site LinkedIn for $26 billion, to give some flavor of what they're willing to spend. Microsoft often buys close to 10 companies per year, 9 in 2017, 8 in 2016.
Great facts. Right there. These are great facts. These are dropping facts right there.
So given that Microsoft has $130 billion in cash per Polygon, an enormous market capitalization, a historical tendency to expand through acquisition, and a perceived and publicly acknowledged weakness in game development, there is very likely to be some action here, and relatively soon.
Yes. Love that.
Moving on, are we going to discuss?
I don't know. We should discuss
that is,
for a second.
could Microsoft buy EA?
Yes. Microsoft is
totally
is big. Yeah, is that like it was a thing a week ago I wouldn't have considered, panel. That's insane to me.
It's crazy. It's like that. It's like the classic animation of just like some scary fish swimming through the ocean and then just some huge mouth. Just you know.
Yeah.
So you're always like, as big as you think something is, it's pales in comparison to something else.
It is
have
exactly
no
that.
problem just gobbling it up.
Yes.
So
and you think
could
of
happen.
EA as huge. You think of EA as huge, and you're right. It's just a tiny fish compared to that big old whale that is Microsoft.
To me, such a decision seems to be a little bit at odds with kind of the conversations that we were having last year, where it seemed like Microsoft had kind of resigned itself to this second place spot, and it was kind of broadening itself in terms of the way that it let people consume games. It was being more flexible with structure and pricing. You're seeing that with the Game Pass.
Yeah.
This to me is like, no, we're going in and we're going for the kill. Like this is a level of aggression and strong arming that makes me think that they are not willing to resign themselves as much as maybe I initially thought.
Yeah. Jones, continue, please.
How could Microsoft buy EA? About EA specifically, its market capitalization stands at a bit over $36 billion. $36 billion. While not exact, this means that Microsoft would generally have to spend at least that amount in order to purchase the company. But in reality, it would need to be more in order to induce the sale.
Induce the sale, Jones. I love this stuff.
As EA is a public company, Microsoft would have two options for an acquisition, primarily. Simplified, a great deal for the purpose of podcast discussion. Microsoft could approach the EA board with a merger proposal, which the board, in accordance with the fiduciary duties it has to EA shareholders, would need to either approve or reject on the basis of what is quote-unquote best for the company shareholders. Or Microsoft could attempt a tender offer, which, for our purposes, amounts to them offering to buy the shares of EA held by each shareholder individually, rather than going through the process of getting the company's approval. The role of the board is especially important in the context of a proposed acquisition. Reams of case law have been written on what the board needs to consider in the face of a buyout, as, in general, approval means that they, and likely good portions of management, will be out of a job. So a board must use careful judgment in the shadow of an acquisition and cannot elevate their own desires to run the company over what could potentially be a windfall for the company's investors.
Yeah, so I love that. I love that basically if you're on the board and you're like, no, we should run EA. We shouldn't give it up. You can't. You can't do that legally. If enough, I guess we're moving to this next thing. If enough money is offered, if your shareholders are going to make more money, you have to allow yourself to be bought.
It's your fiduciary duty.
Yeah.
So say Microsoft wandered in and offered some crazy number for EA, let's say $100 billion, or 3 times its current market capitalization. The board would need to treat that seriously and likely recommend it for approval of the shareholders. The shareholders would then have to approve the deal, usually by majority vote in a public corporation, and then the deal would be done. That's usually how these things go. The acquirer blows away the board with the deal price they simply can't turn down. For example, the aforementioned Disney-Fox deal values Fox shares at about $40 per share when the price at the time was about $25 per share. The board can't simply turn down that level of additional value for the shareholders without a good business reason. Which is a long way of saying that the acquisition of EA for any publicly traded company is always an option for a company as cash-rich as Microsoft. And that, truthfully, if Microsoft higher-ups have determined that there is a weakness in their game development, they would be foolish to not be having at least preliminary calls to determine what value a company's board might be looking for in respect to its stockholders. And that's what I think of first and foremost, separating from Hoeg for people listening.
Yeah.
This is not what Hoeg writing.
This is Brandon Jones.
This is Jones off the dome.
Yes.
Is that I'm sure they've done market research on everybody.
Right.
Like EA might be the most interesting one
Yeah.
where people are fantasizing about that.
Yes.
But it's like there's got to be multiple people at these companies that's what they do all day. It's just
for
like,
sure. Like Sony's like, can we buy EA? Nintendo's
Yeah.
like, can we buy EA? Look
Yeah.
into it. Yeah, for sure, Jones.
Well, not only that, but Microsoft is like, can we buy Rocksteady? Can we buy,
Yes.
this has got to be a different purchase that then offers them, they get Star Wars with this, they get all sorts of stuff. But I'm sure it's also potentially tasty to look at just like a dev on its own. I'm not sure if there is much, if anything, to these rumors, other than Microsoft doing their due diligence, which I absolutely think is happening given their outward-facing statements. I suspect we will definitely see some acquisitions by them in the future. I do wonder if Microsoft would have attempted the purchase of Respawn if they knew the purchase price would be so quote-unquote reasonable. But I don't think we can yet know whether there will be anything as massive as a buyout of EA. I tend to doubt it, only by the reason of historical precedents. Earth-shaking acquisitions don't happen too often. That's why they are earth-shaking. In respect of Valve,
we'll get there. We'll get to Valve. We should talk about EA
Valve.
first.
Ooh.
Yeah.
That's a whole nother.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I mean, he basically comes to the same conclusion that Polygon's 4 analysts did a day later. Is that like, probably not. you know, everybody gets to write their headlines. Everybody got it for that day. Just like, oh, EA could get bought by Microsoft, and we all get to like talk about it on podcasts. But it's highly unlikely in the end.
It'd be weird to see EA operate independently for a certain amount of time following an acquisition like this. Because what is going to change right away? Like what? No games are going to get canceled. It's not like A Way Out's not happening, or it's not like the Battlefield's not happening this year or something. So it'd be weird if an acquisition like this happened before E3, and then you like go to the EA press conference being like, I mean, like, is Microsoft's name going to be up on the screen or something? And they're like, no, we just want EA to run and do the thing it's doing. Like, that would really overshadow anything perceived coming from EA, any announcements.
I guess that's my confusion is how aggressive would it be if suddenly Microsoft owns EA? Is that meaning, hey, you are only getting Madden on a PC and an Xbox and that's it?
Yeah, I think there's no way.
Right.
Yeah, there's like that's. And so it's funny, it doesn't seem like an exclusive fix to me. Like maybe like Mass Effect would be exclusive, but Star Wars wouldn't, and if any sports team, FIFA would not be exclusive.
Yeah, I just wonder, part of me wonders like what is in those contracts with the, getting those licenses is like, are they required to put that on certain?
And I think they actually are. I think those are
systems.
part of most of those contracts actually.
But do you think perhaps the mentality and like why they would be eyeing somebody like Electronic Arts is, having the resources and the studios to get more exclusive games done and out the door, and not have the catastrophes that we've had the last several years with high-profile games.
Yes.
Yeah, because I mean that also like I kind of see where you're coming from. That also seems to be like one of the reasons why something like an EA or a Ubisoft would be so out of left field or like crazy high end is because you're dealing with thousands of employees, multiple studios spread out across the world.
Yeah.
Whereas like if you got PUBG, then like you got PUBG, and that's
that one studio,
huge.
yeah.
And you didn't have to worry about a whole lot of like management and human resources and all that stuff.
You'd have to immediately wonder how dirty things would get, though. Like let's say you have something like a Madden, and sure, let's say it can technically come out on PlayStation, but are there things in the Xbox version that you can't get anywhere else?
Yes,
and
there are.
Yes.
You take that, and you already have the ill will that has been built up over the years against EA, and I mean, like, doesn't that reach miraculously a new boiling point?
It's really funny, Ben, because EA is not the company you want to buy for a happy headline.
Right.
And happy headlines seem to be what Microsoft is just starving for. It's like, hey, $10 for all of our games.
They got a happy headline last week, yeah.
Like backwards compatibility for the original Xbox. Hey, like a lot of service announcements,
Yeah.
a lot of things realizing, obviously they're really pushing tech, but I just see a lot of those smaller things that they're smart enough to identify. People are going to be excited about this. That's going to put a smile on their face. It might not be what they're anticipating. It might not be what the big predictions are before our big announcements, but that'll make people happy.
Yeah, so I think that if this announcement were to happen, it would have to be they would have to have it sorted basically what what the studios would be working on. So like DICE is actually working on Halo now. You know what I mean? Like it'd have to be like that. Kind of like when Square Enix said we're working on multiple Marvel games with these studios.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're talking years down the line, but you had to sort of trust. Like for them to buy EA, they'd have to immediately answer the question, why? What benefit will have it to us? And I wonder if anything would really change. I wonder if if the years went by, I guess EA IP would be exclusive going forward. But yeah, I wonder. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, I think we would see. Yeah, like you were saying, like Battlefield. Like I don't think that they would necessarily be working on Halo. Like I think they would have Battlefield
Yeah,
locked
you're
down.
right. Yeah.
You know, you would have some of these things that they've partnered with. You know, like A Way Out and Faye. Like that would just be locked down. You know, for their group.
Need for Speed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Need for Speed easily locked down.
Yeah, those would be big exclusives. Those would be kind of big.
For sure.
Would it solve the problem? Would Xbox double in sales and suddenly equal the PlayStation 4?
I think it goes back to like where some of those contracts, where those lines lie. You know, if something like a Madden or a FIFA became exclusive, then yeah, that would shift a big tide of people. But if they couldn't do that, then I don't know if the other games would be enough. Battlefield would be a big one though.
Yeah. It's so weird to me. It's about the power of exclusives, which we talked about last week, and we talk about it this week again. It's you don't know like why people buy their consoles. To me, the PlayStation 4's success is not about its exclusives. You can point to this year and say like, look how well Sony's doing with their exclusives, and they totally are. Mm-hmm. But it's not the reason for its success, in my eyes.
But is there a sole reason? You know,
Right. There's never a sole reason.
Right.
Yeah.
I honestly think for a lot of people, they want to play games that are available everywhere. They want to play Battlefield. They want to play Call of Duty. They want to play Madden. But when they're making that decision, the tipping point is, well, I can also check out Horizon. You know, that's gotten a lot of buzz. I think realistically, a lot of consumers go through that where their priority might be that big game, but those other exclusives are the things that are like, well, I might as well play it here because maybe I can get this extra stuff as well. But when you have EA, it's so weird.
Oh yeah.
Because you could just see all of people's fears being like, aha, this is even worse than I thought. This is even worse than I thought it would be.
I think realistically speaking, they would have to drop the NFL or just and FIFA, or honestly, they would just release it on every console. I think that would stay.
Well, yeah.
I think they'd have to drop Star Wars. I think they would just drop it altogether, because the Star Wars can't be exclusive to Xbox, basically.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, all this is done. I mean, we're speculating that all this would be done to benefit the Xbox. Mm-hmm. And are you willing to sacrifice all of those PlayStation and Switch, Madden, FIFA sales just to make the Xbox more popular for a year or two? Like, that seems like a big sacrifice.
Yeah,
you're saying goodbye to a lot of money to just put all your eggs in one basket. And
I get the argument that it's not about Xbox as much as it is about Xbox services. Like Minecraft is on everything.
Yeah. There's that Nintendo tweet today. Like
extremely relevant. Yeah, what was in that Nintendo tweet?
Nintendo tweeted about like all these classic characters coming as Minecraft skins, and I'm like Banjo-Kazooie, Halo, Gears of War. And it was like, when Nintendo's tweeting about Gears of War, what's happening?
Yeah.
What year is it?
Nintendo was proud to announce that Master Chief is in Minecraft on the Switch. I think that's cool. I think that's good, and I think Microsoft probably loves that.
Yeah.
And so I think they want. I don't think they want exclusives as much as people think they want exclusives, basically.
I immediately jumped to the Xbox One X, though, with that sort of purchase, and how much you would merge the message of the most powerful console with something like EA. And how you could really sell people and be like, hey, we were making our games as powerful as they could be before, but now they're under our wing, and you can see that benefit even more dramatically. And I think that's a really easy thing to sell.
Yeah. Yeah, Battlefield could look excellent.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
However, our analysts all say that it's probably very unlikely for that to ever happen.
It was so funny reading the article.
Yeah.
Because you could almost see the analysts just shaking their head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Jones, how about Valve? How about PUBG? Let's talk about these.
In respect to Valve, I believe that Steam would likely be a much bigger antitrust issue than the EA acquisition described above, as Steam is rightfully thought of as having a virtual monopoly on PC game distribution, having a major hardware, server, and operation system provider like Microsoft capture 90% of the PC gaming market would raise a lot of red flags. Doesn't mean they wouldn't do it, but that they would have to be steeled for a fight with FTC DOJ. In respect to Bluehole, MS also has to be wary of triggering an auction-type sale, as my understanding is that Tencent was also considering an acquisition late last year. As in all markets, if there are multiple potential buyers, the price has a tendency to go up. That would have to be a consideration for Microsoft given Tencent's posturing last year. Dissuading other potential acquirers is one of the reasons Tencent might have floated the possibility, in all honesty.
I love stuff like that. This idea, Jones, of saying like, "Hey, we might buy PUBG," just so
to freak
the
people
cost
out.
goes up
Yeah,
of
yeah.
what PUBG Corp
Love
was. I love that idea, and like they never intended to, but they just want to make sure Microsoft doesn't.
Yeah.
I love that. This idea.
Let's say if you're at an auction and you see another auction and you're like, I know that person really wants it, so yeah, I'm just gonna piss them off. Sure, I'll bid. And you're
Yeah.
like, oh, because you know I'm gonna go way up to try to get that thing.
Yeah. Valve, I think you're going for Steam mostly, right? Because they're
That's the weird thing. Like Valve isn't gonna do you much good for Xbox exclusives,
Right.
But it's gonna give you a whole another market.
right. You're not putting Dota on the Xbox One.
It is hard. Valve is just completely unbelievable to me. Like there is I don't think there's any way you could make that work.
Yeah.
And he even said in the article that you are pulling from this, where Valve is fiercely fighting for its independence and doing its thing its own way. And over the last, since Valve's inception, it's been doing that. And you think about why people flock to Steam and why they do PC games. You put Microsoft branding on that, and you are just pissing everybody off. I can't envision any way that you could smooth that over and say, especially when you recall Games for Windows and the absolute terrible, abomination that was, you will have negative goodwill. That's not happening.
The idea of Steam requiring Windows 10 is so fun. Yeah. That's really
The
fun.
minute that you open Steam and you see Microsoft, you just want to throw your computer, it's just not going to work.
Or it does this thing like with Microsoft's email list services, where you get the dumb banner that pops up at the bottom. It's like, better in Microsoft Edge. Try it. I'm like, no, go away.
Blood, is PUBG worth spending billions on? Would PUBG be
I
worth
think
it?
PUBG is the most likely and probably the most beneficial. Again, like I said, there's less overhead, less hassle to deal with, and you're locking down that player base, and it's they've already kind of started to lock it down a bit, with the timed exclusivity. And if they can just maintain that, then they've just got a cash cow right there.
Yeah, I kind of feel like they've already benefited from the exclusivity.
Yeah.
I think it'd be wasting their billions. If
They're up to 4 million players on Xbox now.
I thought it was 5.
Yeah, maybe, the number. I feel like I get another email every week about it.
Yeah. And so right, they're benefiting from it right now. It is the exclusive platform with PC. It's not on PlayStation 4 basically.
Yeah.
And so I don't know if buying it now would be worth it. I think they've already had the benefit. I don't think they're losing the PlayStation sales. So I don't know. It's weird. All right, to wrap up this conversation, of those three, which do you think is most likely to be purchased by Microsoft? Jones.
I agree with Blood. PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds.
Bloodworth?
Yeah.
And Ben.
Same.
Okay, cool. So look forward to the purchase of PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds. Announcement coming before E3. Shoot, you know what? What's up?
I think that's very similar to what happened with Minecraft.
What's that?
Just the fact that Microsoft went out and purchased Minecraft. It's one of those huge worldwide phenomenons.
Yeah.
It's here we've got one game, we've got the support structure and everything. It's boom. it's ours.
Yeah, and it's what's weird about it is, to me, Minecraft is so wide appeal that I think it works for multiple parts of Microsoft's plans going
It does.
forward.
Yeah, absolutely.
PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds doesn't. It's like it's Xbox brand only. You know what I mean? It's just it's weird. You can buy Minecraft shirts at Target.
Yeah.
The thing about another difference between PUBG and Minecraft to me, though, is we reached a point in time where it's like, okay, all of the imitators of Minecraft are not going to overtake this thing. This thing is too high of a mountain to be reached. With PUBG, I'm not convinced that the same is true.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if an imitator eventually completely overtook it and had those ideas, were able to iterate it on more frequently, and just was a better game overall. You're already kind of seeing that with like the rapid ascent of Fortnite, and so I just would be a little bit nervous about that, I suppose.
Yeah. It's hard to see PUBG lasting. Basically, it's hard to point at it and say, "Oh, that's a franchise." To me, in my eyes, am I alone there?
I'm not sure yet.
Okay.
I think we still got a lot of time to see it play out.
Yeah,
but,
I
mean,
agree.
it's increasing numbers still very rapidly.
Sure. Cool. Is it though?
Yeah.
Blood, I think I saw a chart. I saw a chart that was like PUBG players. I shouldn't cite this because I can't cite it, so I won't. But I think Blood, like it's like a disproportionate number of Chinese players. Like it's becoming really huge in China and actually sinking everywhere else. And so it's like it's kind of, I feel like it's already starting to cool off.
They're going to have to innovate. PUBG is going to have to get out in front of everybody and announce something in 2018 that we're like, oh, space? Cool.
Yeah.
Or whoa, like animals? Or just something else that they're adding to it where they're like, look at how we are still a pioneer in this industry that we popularized.
Yes.
But
it needs
it's
more
like,
than vaulting, right?
If they just
Yeah.
if months go by and like all these other people keep, adding modes or launching with stuff, or like IPs that haven't had Battle Royale are adding it, and then we're still looking back at PUBG and they're like, oh, we still got that desert map rocking and rolling. We're like, you got to do something else.
I completely agree.
Yeah,
Sure, but
if we get through E3 and there's no new pub announcements, like, oh boy.
Sure.
They are seemingly constantly tweaking it. I mean, he was telling me today, there's like he's having a hard time keeping up with like stuff that I was thinking about writing is already outdated.
In terms of the meta or in terms of performance?
Just in like they've like changing like how the circle works.
Oh wow. Okay.
They've gotten rid of like the little staging area, and that's improved performance a lot. And so I mean, it seems like they're getting into a process now that like now that they've hit 1.0 that like they're really like refining it.
And I want to take back my criticism actually that it's like growing disproportionately in China, because like obviously like we're having this conversation about console exclusives. It is doing well on Xbox One,
Yeah.
clearly. You know what I mean? And so I want to take that back.
We were talking about the purchasing power of Microsoft and how much they've already bought. I mean, for them, like let's say we, there's a lot of potential there, but we ultimately don't know for sure. That's still probably worth it.
Yeah.
It's still probably worth it to have a potential mega hit on your hands. Like they have enough money that they can do that.
You're right, to roll the dice.
Right.
On a 50-50.
Yeah. A
Odds are
50-50 is probably great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're totally right, man. Yeah. What is $3 billion?